Imagine serving your country overseas, only to return home and discover the very lad you worked for, sacrificed for, and cherished had been stolen right out from under you. That's exactly what nearly happened to Sergeant Jeffrey Lambert. While he was thousands of miles away on active duty, a bitter neighbor named Karen decided she wanted his ranch gone. She pressured the homeowners association, twisted rules, and even arranged the sale behind his back. But what Karen didn't expect was that Jeffrey's uniform carried more power than she ever realized. And when the army got involved, every house paid the price. Jeffrey Lambert had always been defined by discipline, sacrifice, and the dream of one day owning land he could call his sanctuary. After years of service, he finally bought a modest ranch on the edge of a growing community. For Jeffrey, it wasn't just property. It was roots, a space of peace to come back to after deployment, and the place where his family legacy would thrive. But not everyone welcomed him with open arms. His neighbor, Karen Matthews, saw Jeffrey's ranch as an eyesore in her carefully manicured neighborhood. To the HOA, she was a voice of constant complaints. To Jeffrey, she became a quiet storm waiting to erupt. She regularly filed baseless grievances, claiming his fence height violated rules, accusing his guests of lowering community standards, and demanding that the HOA fine him for trivial infractions. Still, Jeffrey brushed it off, telling himself the ranch was worth every battle at home. He continued his duties in the military, leaving on yet another deployment, trusting that his land back in the States would be safe and waiting for his return. But the moment he left, Karen seized an opportunity she had been plotting for months. To her, his absence wasn't just convenience, it was her chance to erase him from the neighborhood altogether. Her plan? Convince the HOA that Jeffrey's ranch violated enough bylaws to justify foreclosure and quietly line up buyers. In her mind, it was simple. Jeffrey wouldn't know until it was too late. Karen began laying the foundation for what she envisioned as her victory. She rallied other homeowners, spreading rumors that Jeffrey's ranch was hurting property values. She painted pictures of disrepair and neglect, carefully leaving out that Jeffrey was deployed overseas, serving the very country that allowed her the privilege of her quiet cul-de-sac life. At HOA board meetings, Karen's words stirred tension. Some nodded politely, unsure. Others simply went along with her, eager to avoid conflict. A few found her obsession unsettling, but Karen's persistence drowned out any protest. Within months, the board voted in favor of escalating fines against Jeffrey, fines that spiraled into the thousands. By the summer, letters piled up in Jeffrey's mailbox. Notices stamped with red warnings lined his door. Karen had orchestrated everything. Then came the final blow. The board approved foreclosure proceedings. Without consultation, without warning, Jeffrey's beloved ranch went on a list for a quiet auction. Karen celebrated behind closed doors. In her mind, the problem was handled, and soon her neighborhood would finally belong to people she approved of. But what Karen didn't anticipate was just how quickly word would reach Jeffrey, even while he was halfway around the globe. A fellow service member's wife forwarded a local news clipping about the foreclosure. And in that moment, something inside Jeffrey shifted. Exhausted from deployment, but fueled with anger, he knew this wasn't just about his ranch. This was about principle, legacy, and the very rights he had sworn to protect for others. When Jeffrey's commanding officer caught wind of the situation, the story spread through military channels. The community of soldiers didn't take kindly to a veteran being systematically targeted while serving in service. Calls were made, legal teams were assembled, and very quickly authorities in uniform began to pay close attention. The Army had a message for Karen's HOA. You don't strip a soldier of his home while he's deployed in service of this nation. And what began as a quiet foreclosure would ignite an investigation that shook not just Karen, but the entire neighborhood. When Jeffrey finally returned home, it wasn't to find his lamb gone, but to discover a storm waiting for Karen and the HOA that had blindly backed her. The foreclosure proceedings were halted once evidence surfaced that the HOA acted beyond its legal limits. Not only had the board failed to follow proper notification laws, but Karen's personal vendetta had left a paper trail of targeted harassment. emails, meeting minutes, and recordings that painted her as the orchestrator of the scheme. The Army, alongside military legal protections, not only reversed the action against Jeffrey, but scrutinized HOA practices across the community. Laws designed to protect active service members, known as the Service Member Civil Relief Act, guaranteed that no soldier should lose property while deployed. The violation wasn't just an overstep, it was illegal. Karen, once queen of her cul-de-sac, suddenly faced consequences. Her allies on the board were replaced after residents, appalled at her obsession, forced resignations. Families who once quietly nodded along were now vocal, angry that their trust in the HOA had been weaponized against a soldier. And Karen? She lost far more than just influence. The legal and financial repercussions left her isolated, her reputation destroyed. What was once a neighborhood she ruled became a constant reminder of her downfall. For Jeffrey, the climax wasn't about revenge. Standing once more on his front porch, boots heavy with the weight of combat, but a heart lightened by justice, he realized something vital. His fight extended beyond the battlefield. This was about dignity, about proving that even in the smallest corners of the nation, those who serve and those who dare to dream of a home deserve protection. With the case closed, Jeffrey's ranch stood as more than just land. It was a statement of resilience. The same soil that Karen had tried to erase became symbolic, not just for him, but for others who had faced prejudice and harassment while simply trying to build a life. The Army didn't stop at saving Jeffrey's home. Their intervention pushed for stronger oversight on HOA actions surrounding active duty service members. Communities across the country began questioning the unchecked power of neighborhood associations, and federal groups spread awareness about rights soldiers had long been unaware of. Jeffrey resumed his life, balancing his military duties with the quiet peace he always longed for. But every time he walked the fence line of his ranch, he carried with him the memory of what nearly happened and the lesson that standing firm against injustice, even at home, requires as much courage as any war zone. So ask yourself, in the face of injustice, whether in your community or your country, would you have the courage to fight back like Jeffrey did?